Case of Beatrice receiving a £18,000 necklace, so about $25,000, from someone she didn't even know. And again, all these people are at, for example, Eugenie's wedding was filled with gangsters and dodgy dictators, as well as film stars she'd never met.
An £18,000 diamond necklace arrives from a sender who doesn't exist. High-stakes bank deals in the desert are signed behind closed doors. For years, the world was told Beatrice and Eugenie were merely bystanders to their family's chaos. But the jewelry boxes and private ledgers tell a very different story. Something has surfaced in early 2026 that has the palace scrambling to distance itself. And the trail of gifts leads to places no royal was ever meant to go. If you think you know how the York sisters fund their billionaire lifestyle, you're only seeing the surface. By the end of this video, you'll see the specific document that changed everything and why their refusal to open their books has sparked a civil war behind palace walls. You won't want to miss a single second of this unfolding mystery, so if you enjoy diving into the secrets the headlines won't touch, join our community by hitting that subscribe button. We'd love to have you along for the journey.
Well, I have a lot of material on Beatrice and Eugenie, which I didn't put in the hardback, which I think I may now put in the paperback. I was told to leave them alone. Certainly, the research I've done shows that this was very much a family enterprise, and money was, I would argue, fenced through the daughters. They were given gifts, money that they couldn't explain was put into their bank accounts.
The polished image of the innocent royal daughters didn't just crack in early 2026, it completely shattered. For years, the narrative was that Beatrice and Eugenie were merely bystanders to their father's controversies, but new reports suggest they were actually the secret gears keeping a massive financial machine turning. Insiders are now calling it the York Enterprise, a sophisticated family network designed to move wealth where the public eye couldn't reach. It starts with a lifestyle that simply doesn't add up. While they are often described as working professionals with private careers, their spending tells a much more lavish story. We're talking about a level of luxury that far exceeds a standard salary in art or banking. Allegedly, this wasn't just luck or smart investing. Sources claim that after their father was stripped of his official support, a new system had to be built, and that's where the daughters came in. It is believed that private bank accounts were used as a safety net to ensure the family's influence stayed intact even when the palace tried to cut the cord. But the real shocker isn't just that the money was moving, it's where it was coming from. Reports suggest that high-level deals in the Middle East weren't just about consulting, they were about access. Every time a new gift or commission appeared, it seemed to coincide with a meeting that never appeared on an official royal calendar. But here's the kicker. Just as investigators started connecting these dots, a series of mysterious transactions surfaced that linked the sisters to individuals the monarchy has spent years trying to avoid. Rumors indicate that these weren't just business deals, they were lifelines. And while the public was looking at the old scandals, a new, much larger shadow was being cast over Windsor. This financial web was working perfectly until a group of uninvited guests decided to show up where they were least expected. To understand how this house of cards started to lean, you have to look at the one event where the worlds of royalty and international dodgy figures finally collided in broad daylight.
They certainly used a lot of the contacts from their parents, which they're exploiting now. There's Beatrice in the Middle East, basically promoting her own business on the back of being Her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice. And so there's the same confusion between her private income and her public role that her mother had, and indeed the father.
If you look closely at the guest list for Eugenie's wedding, you'll find names that simply don't belong in a royal chapel. While the cameras were focused on the A-list celebrities and the sweeping gowns, a much more controversial group was moving through the shadows of St. George's Chapel. Allegedly, the pews were filled with individuals whose backgrounds would make even a seasoned diplomat nervous. We're talking about figures linked to international investigations and regimes that the monarchy usually avoids at all costs. According to sources, this wasn't just a social oversight, it was a calculated display of the York Enterprise in full swing. Rumors indicate that these guests weren't just there for the cake and the champagne. They were the primary investors in a lifestyle that the official royal budget could no longer support. Insiders say that when you look at who was actually sitting in those seats, it becomes clear that the fencing of influence started long before 2026. But why would a royal bride risk her reputation on such dodgy associations? It is claimed that these connections were the price of entry for the massive sums of money reportedly flowing into the sisters' private accounts. Every handshake in that chapel potentially represented a new deal or a gift that would never be audited by the palace. It's a world where a royal wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was a high-stakes networking event for the family's survival. Still, the true extent of these relationships was kept tightly under wraps until a series of unverified reports began to surface this year. It is believed that certain individuals from that wedding day have recently come under fresh scrutiny, and their proximity to the sisters is now a major liability. The palace is reportedly horrified by the optics, especially as new documents suggest these friendships involve far more than just social visits. As the pressure mounts, the question isn't just who was at the wedding, but what they were promised in return for their loyalty. And just as the public started asking these questions, a massive rift opened up within the royal family that changed everything. To see how these shadow connections triggered an all-out war with the future king, you have to look at the secret ultimatum that was just delivered behind closed doors. The quiet halls of Windsor were rocked in early 2026 when a cache of documents surfaced that no one was ever supposed to see. We aren't just talking about old memos. These are reported to be detailed logs that pull the curtain back on decades of high-stakes associations. According to sources, these files contain specific mentions of the sisters in contexts that suggest they were much closer to the center of the family's past controversies than anyone dared to admit. It's a paper trail that leads directly into the private social circles the monarchy has been desperate to erase. For years, the public was led to believe that Beatrice and Eugenie were shielded from the darker side of the York household. But these new revelations suggest otherwise. Rumors indicate that investigators have found references to family excursions and private retreats that align perfectly with some of the most sensitive dates in recent history. It is claimed that these documents don't just show where they were, but who was footing the bill for their travel and security during those missing weekends. The mystery deepens when you realize how these files came to light. Insiders say a digital breadcrumb trail left by a former associate sparked a frantic search within the palace archives. Now, the fear is that the shagging weekend comments, once dismissed as gossip, are actually documented in black and white. It's a nightmare scenario for a monarchy trying to present a clean, streamlined image to the world. As these details began to leak, the institutional reaction was swift and cold. Reports suggest a distance directive was issued almost immediately. This wasn't just about scheduling, it was about survival. The York sisters were reportedly told that their presence at major 2026 events was no longer a given. It is believed the king himself was briefed on the uncomfortable proximity these documents revealed, leading to a symbolic wall being built around the core family. But while the palace was busy building walls, the tension was boiling over in the private quarters. The sisters reportedly felt blindsided, believing they were being punished for a past they couldn't control. However, the future king wasn't looking for excuses, he was looking for proof. This standoff over the leaked files was only the beginning of a much larger confrontation. To understand how this document leak turned into a full-scale financial interrogation, you have to see the ultimatum that finally broke the family's silence.
They did ask Beatrice and Eugenie to open up their finances and just have someone to look at them, and they both rejected it, correct?
They did. I mean, the thing is, while they're princesses, they're earning large sums of money in the Middle East.
The royal rift finally reached a point of no return when an ultimatum was delivered that changed the rules of the game forever. According to sources, William decided that the era of "trust me" was officially over. Reports suggest he issued a direct demand. The York sisters must voluntarily open their private financial books to an independent team of palace auditors. It was a move designed to flush out the truth behind those Middle Eastern deals and anonymous gifts once and for all. The tension behind closed doors was allegedly electric. For the first time, the future king wasn't just asking for cooperation. He was demanding proof of where every single penny originated. Insiders say the sisters were given a choice: total transparency or total exclusion from the royal brand. But what happened next shocked the entire institution. Rumors indicate that both Beatrice and Eugenie flatly rejected the request, digging in their heels and refusing to hand over the keys to their private ledgers. This wasn't just a minor disagreement, it was an act of open defiance. It is claimed that their refusal has convinced senior aides that there is something in those accounts that simply cannot see the light of day. Why would a royal family member turn down a chance to clear their name unless the truth was more damaging than the speculation? Every day they stay silent. The curiosity gap only grows wider, and the pressure from the top becomes more suffocating. As the standoff intensified, the consequences began to manifest in broad daylight. We're talking about a noticeable absence from major 2026 milestones and a cold shoulder from the core family that could be felt across the country. It is believed that the relationship between the cousins has completely disintegrated, leaving the sisters isolated on an island of their own making. But as the audit war rages on, the sisters are reportedly preparing a countermove to save their reputation. They aren't just sitting back and waiting for the next blow. To understand how they plan to flip the narrative and use a major personal milestone to mask the financial storm, you have to look at the clean slate strategy they're launching right now. The strategy for a clean slate wasn't just a PR move, it was a survival tactic designed to bury the financial noise under a wave of sentiment. Allegedly, the plan was simple. Use the most powerful tool in the royal arsenal to shift the public's focus. We're talking about family milestones, new beginnings, and the kind of headlines that pull at the heartstrings. Reports suggest that every public appearance and social media post is now being meticulously scrubbed to project an image of modest, hard-working professionals who are totally disconnected from the family's shadow business. But hiding a billionaire lifestyle in plain sight is harder than it looks. While they are reportedly trying to rebrand as relatable mothers and career-focused women, the optics of their luxury travel and elite social circles keep bubbling to the surface. Insiders say there is a massive internal struggle to maintain this normal facade, while still enjoying the perks of their high-level international connections. Every time they try to move forward, a new question about a past gift or a mysterious property holding seems to pull them back into the storm. It is believed that Eugenie's recent personal news was seen as the ultimate distraction, a way to reset the clock and make the public forget about the 2026 document leaks. But the palace isn't biting. Sources claim that behind the scenes, the audit war hasn't slowed down just because the cameras are flashing. The contrast between their public message of restraint and the reported reality of their bank accounts is creating a tension that is becoming impossible to ignore. Rumors indicate that this make-or-break strategy is their last chance to stay within the royal fold. If they can't convince the public, and more importantly, the future king, that they have truly distanced themselves from the York enterprise, the consequences will be permanent. They are walking a razor-thin line between a fresh start and a total institutional lockout. As the clock ticks down on their current roles, a final, much more serious threat is looming over their heads. This isn't just about public perception anymore, it's about the very thing that defines their identity. To see why their time as highnesses might be running out faster than anyone expected, you have to look at the final ultimatum currently sitting on the king's desk. The clock is officially ticking on the royal titles of Beatrice and Eugenie, and according to sources, the final decision may have already been made behind closed doors. We're talking about the very identity they've held since birth, Her Royal Highness potentially being stripped away in a move that would redefine the York legacy forever. Insiders say that while the sisters are fiercely determined to hold on to their status, the pressure from the top of the monarchy has reached a breaking point. It is believed that the Highness title is no longer seen as a birthright, but as a privilege that requires total financial transparency, something the sisters have reportedly refused to provide. The standoff has reached the highest levels of the palace, and the atmosphere is described as cold and clinical. Rumors indicate that even as the family celebrates personal milestones, like the news of a new arrival in the family, the institutional machinery is moving in the opposite direction. It is claimed that a decree has been drafted that would move the sisters into a private citizen status, effectively ending their roles as representatives of the crown. This isn't just about a name change, it's about losing the security, the prestige, and the last layer of protection they have left. But why now? Why is the monarchy suddenly so intent on removing the York brand from the official lineup? Sources suggest that the physical distancing we've seen at major major 2026 events was just the first phase. The next step is far more permanent. Every time a new report surfaces about questionable gifts or Middle Eastern bank deals, the argument for keeping them as HRHs becomes harder for the king to defend. Insiders say the choice has been simplified: open the books and keep the titles, or keep the secrets and lose the crown. As we move toward the summer of 2026, the silence from the York camp is becoming deafening. It is believed that they are standing their ground, but the weight of public perception is starting to lean heavily against them. The question is no longer if a shift will happen, but how public the fallout will be. Will they volunteer to step back to save face? Or will they be the first princesses in modern history to have their titles taken by force? The House of York has survived decades of scandal, but this latest investigation might be the one hurdle they can't clear. With the future king reportedly leading the charge for a clean monarchy, the space for figures on the edge of the institution is disappearing in real time. So, what do you think is the real reason they are refusing to open their books? Is it a matter of principle, or is there a specific gift that would end their royal lives instantly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories the palace wants to keep hidden. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.